Old Granny didn't know the rules of the road. She pointed towards the car. The big car instantly turned into a wooden plank. The driver was sitting on it with a shocked look on his face. A passing girl, Lisa, she saw what happened. Two officers from the police station. They came over and tried to take Granny Susan away. Susan stretched out her finger and flicked it. The two men turned into snails. Lisa was shocked again. Susan just wanted to teach the two men a lesson. She turned them back into snails. So Susan was brought back to the police station for investigation. The things she carried with her were very messy. The man found a small bottle, but when he took a drag, he was instantly in a pond. Looking at his companion who disappeared into thin air, the man was panic-stricken. What they didn't know was, the man had already crossed the continent, into the swamps of Africa. The men were terrified. He kept asking where Susan had taken his mate. He ran out to call for help. The grandmother in front of him was terrifying, while the man was out, and asked Lisa to help her untie herself. As they tried to escape, the man blocked the doorway. Susan blew a breath towards her. As a result, the man could not move. Susan is a witch who hides in a parallel dimension. In the past few days, she sensed that something terrible was about to happen. Darkness has returned to the earth. The Dark Lord, sealed away for thousands of years, is about to descend. Susan is on a mission for her entire family to find this dark thing, to stop the Dark Lord from coming. But being new to the human world, Susan got into a lot of trouble. Forgetting that Lisa took her for a homeless old woman, she took her back to her home and prepared a delicious meal for Susan. Looking at the kind girl, Susan told her what she was doing. She was looking for the Dark Lord, who was hiding in the human home, in a parallel dimension. It's a land of magic. The Dark Lord wants to rule it. Susan joined forces with a warrior and defeated him with a family relic. But when the Dark Lord was in his temporary state, he turned into black smoke and fled to the human home. When he regained his strength, he will unleash the power of darkness into the hearts of the people. They will be devoid of all emotion. Then he will rule the human race. Now it's time to find the Dark Lord in hiding. Susan used the witch's magic. She came to the door of a museum, and sure enough, a black demonic aura coalesced above the museum. Susan stepped inside. As she stepped into the hall, an old woman came to Habitat for Humanity in search of the Dark Lord. She came to the door of a museum, and sure enough, a black demonic aura coalesced above the museum. Susan walked in. As she stepped into the hall, the familiar feeling returned. When she searched the basement, a man dressed in medieval times appeared. He was the Dark Lord hiding in the human home. The man was surprised to see that Susan had found him. It was she who defeated him with that warrior. That's why he escaped to this country. He was angry to see his enemy. The man swung his blade and charged. Susan pointed her finger at him. The man was frozen into an ice sculpture. Now he has to find the Dark Lord's holy relic. It's the source of his dark power. The freezing spell will only hold him for a short time. Susan rushed to get help and brought out the dark object. Susan led the group into a parallel dimension. She began to set up traps to prevent the Dark Lord from breaking in. But before they could act, the Dark Lord went straight through the door. He raised his hand. A dark red light flashed. Susan was thrown out of the room. The Dark Lord came to Lisa. He asked her to hand over the holy relic. At that moment, Susan's men took out the magic treasure that had defeated him. But before he could use it, the Dark Lord seized it. He began to refine it. If he succeeds, no one in the world will be able to defeat him. At that moment, Susan woke up. She unleashed all her magic power. She tried to confine the Dark Lord in the air, but he broke free. He continued to refine. The little boy on the side saw this, took the opportunity to take the Dark Lord's holy relic, and threw it through the door of the space. When Susan saw this, she closed the gate immediately. The Dark Lord's sacred relic stayed in the human homeland. The connection between him and his body was severed by space. The Dark Lord suffered a backlash. He turned into black smoke and tried to break out of the magic kingdom, but he was blocked by the walls of space. The barriers of space. The Dark Lord screamed and disappeared into a puddle of black liquid. The brave boy was rewarded by Susan. She gave him a golden apple. It was a magic apple that could cure all ills. The boy returned to his home and rushed to the hospital to see his grandmother who was about to die. He attached the apple to a tube. The golden apple juice flowed down the tube and into the grandmother's body. The result was that the grandmother, she opened her eyes again. Her body was filled with magic power. When the boy saw that his grandmother had woken up, a smile of joy spread across his face.